It is now expected that France will announce a further lockdown this week, a national lockdown. Are you preparing to announce additional fiscal support for French business and their employees when this happens?
First of all, on the lockdown, I just want to insist on the fact that nothing has been decided yet. We will have a very important meeting on Wednesday with President Macron. We will assess the health situation and then take the required decisions. But once again, nothing has been decided yet. Our policy is quite clear. We will support all the economic sectors that are badly hit by the crisis as long as it will be needed. And if we are to take new measures, we will have also to provide new support to the sectors that will be more severely hit by these measures. It must be very clear that we stand beside those sectors. We have decided from the very beginning, from March 2020, to support the employees, to support the companies, to support all the sectors that have been hit by the crisis. And we will continue to do the same as long as the pandemic will continue to strike France and Europe.
How long do you think that support is now going to be required for? Are you starting to change your thinking about the duration of this pandemic? There was an assumption that, for instance, the travel and tourism sector would be back to normal by this summer. That is increasingly being called into question. Are you starting to rethink the duration of this?
I think that back to normal is the kind of wording that I would not use for the time being, because it would be too tricky. Our assumption is that we have to divide the year 2021 in two parts. In the first part of the year 2021, let's say till next summer, I think that we will have to continue supporting some of the economic sectors in France. And once again, we have decided to do so from the very beginning. It would be a political, a social, and an economic mistake to withdraw that kind of measures while the pandemic is still there. But I hope that in the second part of 2021, we will be able to lift the measures for health security. We will be able to alleviate that kind of difficulties. And in that case, if the pandemic is over, I think that we can count on a very strong rebound of the French economy on the second part of 2021. And what makes me really confident about the situation, the economic situation in France, is that when we have decided on the summer 2020 to lift the measures for the health measures, then there has been a very strong rebound in the French economy, which means that we have everything that is required to have a very strong and very quick rebound as soon as the pandemic is over.
Minister, within the last couple of seconds, we have news from Italy, where the Italian Treasury is now saying that it sees 2021 GDP growth as low as 4.5%. You've indicated that your 6% target for this year is, quote, challenging, and that forecast is dependent on no further lockdowns. How much do you think your targets, your 6% target, could suffer if, as you say, a decision potentially could be made Wednesday that could install a further lockdown?
Let's be very clear. I made very clear from the very beginning that the 6% was a challenge, and that this challenge is directly linked to the health situation. If there is a lockdown, but once again, nothing has been decided yet on this lockdown and on any further measures. But if there is a decision of lockdown in France, of course, it will have direct impact on our growth forecast. And it will be very difficult to reach 6% of growth if there is a lockdown decided in a few days or in a few weeks. But this should not be a surprise for anybody because we have been very clear from the very beginning on the assumptions and on the way we have defined the level of growth for 2021. The 6% is a challenge. I think that we can reach it, provided that there is no new health measures and no new lockdown in France.
We'll see what happens later on this week. As you said, this is going to be, well, you think this is going to be a game of two halves, that the second half of the year is likely to look better. One of the factors behind that is likely to be the progress that is going to be made on vaccinations. France is currently lagging behind on vaccinations. Why is that happening, and what impact do you think it's going to have on the French economy?
You know, from the very beginning of January, President Macron made very clear that we had to accelerate on the vaccinations. And you can see the results now. We have 1 million people being vaccinated by the end of January. So we are on the right track. And I think that this decision of accelerating the campaign of vaccination was the right one. We can see the positive results of this decision from President Macron. And of course, there is a direct link between the success of the vaccination and the possibility of having a very strong economic rebound by the end of this year. We are on the right direction, once again, and the fact that the vaccination campaign has accelerated is good news for all of us.
Minister, I'm wondering when you are scheduled to talk to Janet Yellen, the incoming Treasury Secretary in the United States, depending on the votes. When is that conversation going to happen? What do you think the focus of that conversation will be? And do you worry that the European Union's new trade deal with China may make relations with Washington a little bit more difficult?
I hope to have the possibility of talking to Janet as soon as possible in a few days. But first of all, we are waiting for the confirmation from the US Senate. So I want to stick to the American procedure, of course, and I'm waiting for the formal confirmation from the US Senate. And then we will have a lot of topics that we will have to address. But I know Janet Yellen very well, and I'm sure that we will have a very constructive relationship on many topics. The first one will be, of course, international taxation, and the very first statements made by Janet Yellen on international taxation clearly mark a change in the American position on the right direction on digital taxation and on minimum taxation, especially. The second issue that we will have on the table, even if it is not exactly in the scope of the responsibilities of Janet Yellen, will be the necessity of withdrawing the sanctions against the EU and doing our best efforts to find an agreement on the trade questions, and especially on the Boeing Airbus case, but because clearly this is a matter of concern for all of us here in Europe. And the last point will be, as you just said, the relationship with China. I think that we have to do our common efforts, the US and Europe, to engage China into a more constructive relationship on the international stage and incentivizing China to obey by the international rules on intellectual property, for instance, or on the level playing field. And I hope that we will be able to have a common view on this approach towards China.